United States immigration authorities have begun a national sweep to reportedly capture and deport over 1 million undocumented immigrants. The operation will most likely be one of the largest conducted by federal authorities since President Donald Trump took office, and could possibly be one of the biggest immigration deportation operations in U.S. history. That is, if the statements made by the president carry any weight. With Trump's flair for dramatic statements, some don't believe such a large-scale operation is possible.
It's another statement from a president who doesn't have any credibility. This is a fellow who talks and talks and talks and doesn't follow through on a lot of his statements.
According to UCIS's acting director Ken Cuccinelli, people with final orders of removal will be targeted first. Others with accelerated cases may be in the agency's crosshairs as well. The raids were first announced by President Trump a couple of weeks ago in his usual Twitter manner. Serious blowback appears to have caused the president to postpone the raids for a few more weeks, asking Congress to solve the immigration issue. According to sources in the federal government, the operation will be conducted in 10 major cities across the United States. It's unclear if St. Louis's local ICE office will conduct operations here. That's something that has some guessing.
When we see broad threats like that, we know that the damage is done regardless of whether or not the threat is ultimately enforced.
Sarah John heads up the Interfaith Committee on Latin America, a non-for-profit advocacy group helping bring social justice and human rights for immigrants here in St. Louis and elsewhere.
The instant waves of fear and chaos and panic and stress and trauma that floods through the community is devastating, and it's devastating when you hear an announcement that you know is going to lead to that.
Organizations like IFCLA, ACLU of Missouri, MIRA, or MICA, to name a few, have worked tirelessly to help migrants understand their rights under the law and organize strategies to keep families together. Laws like SB 64 are making their way in Jefferson City. The proposed Senate bill seeks to give law enforcement broader powers in detaining and questioning residents' citizenship status. The law has been described by critics as a green light for racial profiling and is just one of several such laws the Republican-led Missouri legislature is trying to pass this year.
The border is everywhere. A lot of these bad policies and laws that we see along border states, they're all over the country, and they are happening here in Missouri.
The laws are specifically written towards Latinos and foreign-born immigrants. It's no stretch of the imagination why undocumented Latinos may distrust law enforcement. St. Louis, however, has held a policy of not cooperating with federal agencies like ICE when executing raids on immigrant communities. Even so, a trust gap exists that has been hard to overcome. One big problem has been the underreporting of crime. As many undocumented Latinos fall victim to it, they mostly go unreported for fear of coming into contact with the police.
We respond and investigate crimes. We do not involve other agencies, other federal agencies, or any others. We try to resolve and keep people safe.
Demographically speaking, Latino crime involvement in St. Louis is comparatively rare. With raids and deportations looming, St. Louisans may ask themselves what they can do to help. Alicia Hernandez from Missouri's chapter of the ACLU says there's always something that can be done.
And one thing that I always stress with any community member is that we are not spectators in this process. We should hold our legislators accountable and constantly engaging and mobilizing your neighbors, your community to do the same.
Hein has a clear understanding of why migrants come to St. Louis.
The great majority of the immigrants who are in the United States and in St. Louis specifically are here for two purposes. One is to work, and two is to be able to support their families.
For Metro STL, I'm James Klein.